Well, here we are on this special day here on International Hospitality Women's Day, Thursday, September 22nd. We are so delighted to introduce Sofiya Kayinska. I know she's going to correct me on this, the acting director at Lviv Convention Bureau, right there in Ukraine, the country of Ukraine. Well, welcome, Sofiya.
Hi, Deborah. Yes, and I will correct you. My surname is Kayinska. I know it's difficult to pronounce, but yeah, it
It's a
happens.
beautiful name, and I love the spelling of Sofiya, Sofiya. That's really unique too.
Yeah, actually, the reason why this spelling, because sometimes people said Sofia, sometimes some other names, and I wanted to, to emphasize that it's Sophia.
I'm glad you did. And yes, we want to get it right. And I know we're going to talk about some terminology and verbiage in Ukraine because it is a little bit different than the US. And since we are mostly here watching you from the US and hopefully from around the world, here in the US, we are thousands of miles away and we only hear what we hear, especially from the media. So having you on this show today, we want to give people the straight truth from our own hospitality professional that is representing Ukraine and what's going on and how Ukraine is going with the whole war situation and what the wonderful people are doing as well. So first off, how are you doing? How's your family and your friends?
Well, we don't say that it's safe in Lviv because Lviv is on the west of Ukraine. So we are relatively safe, as we say. But yeah, the first days of the war, they were very stressful, frustrating, and like everyone was in shock. But still, right now, it's a little bit calmer on the western parts, but it's still like, combat zones on east and south of the country. So we're still fighting for our country. So it's really tough to know that your friends are there, that some of our family members are there. But like my family right now, we are in Lviv. We didn't leave the country, so yeah, we're together.
Yeah, and so we're going to get into this a little bit more in depth, no doubt, because everybody's on the edge of their seat to know what's going on, and having you again on the show today really makes it very relevant. But first, tell us a little about you. I know I read the bio a little bit about you, but I know there's so much more about you and your experience, around the world. As a matter of fact, can you tell our audience a little bit about you?
Sure. So I'm an English teacher. Like my first education is the English teacher. But right now I'm the acting director of Lviv Convention Bureau. So I became a member of Convention Bureau in 2018. It was a really spontaneous decision to join the team. And then I became the deputy director and now the acting director during these tough times. So yeah, I studied in Lviv University. I studied also in Opole University in Poland. I'm trying to use all the opportunities of the informal education as well, because formal, that's good. You learn how to think, how to solve the problems, but in the end, the informal education, that is what gives you the opportunity to network, the opportunity to know more, to be more creative, and so on. So that is about me. I'm trying to learn all the time, and I'm very happy that our industry this year have this huge support of Ukraine, of Lviv Convention Bureau in particular, and we can join other activities around the world, either online or offline.
Well, then it's interesting because you're making it sound like it's a normal life, but we do know from what we've heard over here is many people fled the country, but not you, not your family and friends in your town. What's it been like these past few months? Because I know you were first planning, especially before the pandemic, you were planning these support packages to have people travel to Ukraine and enjoy the people, the culture and everything, the meetings, at the conventions, everything, just really promoting it out there. And when the pandemic hit, here in the US, we had to deal with being safe and staying home. But on top of that, what you all were doing is refocusing, and had to turn the whole strategy around to informing the world about this terrible war.
Yeah, so actually, that what happened. We were launching our support package for the conferences to invite them to Lviv to make it more attractive, even though it wasn't like the big funding, but still we wanted to do something good for other associations, for organizations who who had to choose between, for example, Lviv or some Polish cities or some other Ukrainian cities, because when the pandemic hit, all the borders were closed, and it was our way to come back to business. Yeah, so it was very successful in 2021, but when we had to choose our conferences to be funded in 2022, the war hit like one day after our planned commission that we wanted to choose the good ones, like the good conferences. So yeah, why we stayed? That's a really interesting question, because on the first days of war, when there was a chance to go, like with the whole family, we decided to stay because all the main battlefields are on the east and south. Of course, at the first days, our capital was attacked. Our city was also attacked. So from time to time, we also have air raid sirens, and we have the app on our phone, which actually shows when there can be an attack. And right now it's also difficult because the attacks, like the shelling, comes not only from the Black Sea, but also from Belarus side. So it's a pity that they also have to be involved in this brutal war. But we also understand, we are closer because of the history. So we understand why they could, to give the land from which can be the shelling. So yeah, that what actually
It's,
makes it harder,
yeah, yeah,
because it's like the Belarus is closer to Lviv than, for example, from the Black Sea.
right.
And we decided to stay because we knew that some people from the battlefield places would need help. And Lviv is now providing this help because it's the source of like the hub, humanitarian hub, the volunteer hub, all the help that comes from Europe and from the US. Sometimes it comes like from the east, and we are like the first city to get this help and provide it to other cities that need this. Plus, when actually the war started on 24th, we have the train, like the direct train to Polish city Przemysl, and from like people took those trains. It was a disaster on the train station because a lot of people wanted to get on the train and to cross the border, because not just buses and cars are going abroad, but also these trains, and they were full of people, full of women with children, full of men, because we have this law that men can't leave the country. So right now, a lot of Ukrainian women with children, with 2 children, 1 child, 3 children, that depends. So they are staying abroad just to be safe. Some of our colleagues also went abroad just to be sure that, that's not just your safety, but of the small child who has to be raised in peace. and that's why they left the country. So
Wow,
yeah.
my heart goes out to that. I did not know that was a law to have the men stay behind. That had to have been so devastating to separate families at a just a distressed, all of a sudden situation that they just were not prepared for. Because from what I understand, your town is only 600 miles from the conflict at the Russian border. That is really, really close. And yet I see that you, your family, your friends are very, very brave, not knowing if that conflict zone comes closer and closer to your town. It's just devastating to know that. Are you afraid? Are you more brave than than I know I would be?
Well, we had this shelling on the first days. So our airport, we do have airport in Lviv, was also under attack. But thankfully, we have great air defense. So a lot of shelling who actually came to Lviv, they were destroyed. And they couldn't make damage, but there were some some places that were damaged. Fortunately, not the city center. Fortunately, not a lot of victims, but still, yeah, we were under attack. Right now, it's like more common because you're trying. Well, at the beginning, I said that I live in two realities. One, the mice industry is coming back to business in the world, and we have to keep up with the time and to know all the trends. So because we know when the war will end, it will. So we will have to be ready to host the people, to host the conferences. And the other one, when families are dying, like the whole family on the east, some of our friends were at those territories, and they had to fled from the war. So it was really really strange to live in those two
Yeah,
realities and going to some other for
right.
example, exhibitions and so on, and live with the war. So
So you're in touch with other convention bureaus in Ukraine, and I would imagine your colleagues. And if so, what are they telling you about this situation and the infrastructure and the war in that area?
So there are two convention bureaus in Ukraine. Actually, one is in Lviv. It's the first one convention bureau in Ukraine, and the other one is in Kyiv. That's our capital. So they are trying to cope with the tasks as we are. So we are planning the strategy how to work like for the future. But we are doing this right now because it's a long process. So we are trying different cooperations as well. Um, as Kyiv was not shelled so much as, like, for example, and Lviv wasn't shelled as much. So we have this strategy, like not a lot of things were destroyed, and we can proceed. Like, for example, when they have the Congress Center, it is not. It was a little bit damaged, but not a lot. So they actually renewed the work, um, and they are trying to work as they worked. But of course, having this safety matters, having all the things that you have
To deal
uh,
with,
to
yeah.
deal with. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
but I bet there's a big, huge, huge support there, and I'm just again, I just know on behalf of everyone in the hospitality industry, in particular in the United States, really has been reaching out to support as much as possible, which we're going to talk about. But can you tell us a little bit about your town and the people there? How many people there are, and what everybody is doing just in your town alone?
Yeah, so we are seventh biggest city in Ukraine. We are called the cultural capital of Ukraine. Our city is on UNESCO site heritage list. So it's really great to know that you are walking around, historic buildings, like some nice, you have some nice views, and it's really, calming you down on these days that you still can see this beauty. So we had like up to 1 million people before some restructures in the whole country. And right now, I think it's up to 2 million, if I'm not mistaken, with all the people who came to our city. But we'll see what will happen next because, yeah, we are expanding our territory a little bit. So, yeah, more people are
Well,
joining.
I understand it's a beautiful, beautiful town. I even heard the cost is even less to live there than New York. But from what I understand, you have beautiful gourmet restaurants, cafes, beautiful terraces, chocolate.
Yeah.
But just to know that the businesses are open there, that is very, very good news. And really, really appreciate all this type of update, because what we're going to do now is we're going to come back to hear more details on the hospitality industry. When you brought up MICE earlier, we want to know a little bit more about that, and I know our viewers do too. So thank you so much for that update on your country, on your beautiful town of Lviv, and what you are up to as well. It's really, really feels good. But I know that again, we've got more information to share with you as we come back here on Hospitality Today Live for this special edition International Hospitality Women's Day with our special guest representing Ukraine, Sofiya Kayinska. We'll be right back.